Hey guys, tonight we slip straight into the kind of heat that makes your eyelashes feel like they're sweating. You step into the Wild West expecting those movie-perfect golden plains, but instead you're met with a dry, unhelpful breeze that feels like someone turned a giant hair dryer toward your face. You probably won't survive this, at least not without questioning every romantic idea you've ever had about the frontier. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first few steps outside the dusty wooden building you woke up in and instantly regret breathing. The air is so dry it feels like it steals something from you. Moisture, dignity, the will to continue. You can't quite tell. Your lips tighten like they're trying to become raisins, and there's a moment when you swear your nostrils have turned into tiny parchment pages. Even seasoned frontier travelers wrote about the scorch of high noon, a phrase that sounds poetic until it's your skin sizzling under it. The sun isn't a gentle companion here, it's a fully armed bully. You stand there blinking at the pale, shimmering horizon, and you can't decide if the ground is melting or if your vision is staging a protest. One mainstream historical fact settlers mentioned often was the glare sickness, not a real illness, but the disorienting brightness that made people dizzy and prone to fainting. And you, modern and hydrated, still feel that faint wobble as the heat wraps around your head. You try walking, but the dust kicks up like it has a personal grudge against you. It clings to your boots, your clothes, your eyelashes, a kind of dry, persistent confetti celebrating your suffering. And because nothing in the West is gentle, the dust doesn't just sit there, it sneaks into your throat, making you cough like a Victorian opera character who forgot their dramatic handkerchief at home. A quirky fringe tidbit whispers its way into your thoughts. Some pioneers believed the dust carried desert spirits that caused misfortune. You're not superstitious, but right now, the dust definitely feels like it's plotting something. It swirls around your ankles as if deciding whether to trip you or just blind you temporarily. Given the options, you start walking slower. Every step makes your boots sink into the dry soil, and it's shocking how quickly your body starts complaining. Your brain tries to reassure you, it's just heat, but your legs are already negotiating a truce. When you pass by a water trough for horses, the water looks stagnant and murky, like it hasn't moved since last Tuesday. Yet even that looks appealing for a split second. And that's when the reality check hits. This environment doesn't care how modern you are. Out here, nature negotiates nothing. Historians still argue whether the Wild West was truly harsher than other frontiers, but as you wipe dust from your eyes for the 8th time in 2 minutes, you don't feel the need for scholarly consensus. You're living the answer. You squint toward the endless plain, and the landscape wavers as if the heat itself is breathing. You take another step, and the ground gives off that faint baked earth smell, something between burnt clay and the inside of an unplugged oven. It's the kind of scent that makes your body say, "Turn back," even though there's nowhere to turn back to. But you push forward anyway, because that's what people did here every single day. And already, after only a few minutes, the question creeps in. If this is how the Wild West starts, how on earth did anyone make it through an entire day? You keep trudging forward, heat buzzing in your ears like a nervous mosquito, and the first rumble you feel isn't thunder, it's your stomach begging for mercy. The Wild West doesn't hand out snacks, and you quickly learn that frontier cuisine is really just a creative reinterpretation of suffering. You wander toward a camp where a pot hangs over a struggling fire, and you already know this won't be gourmet, but you're hungry enough to hope. A cowboy gives you a nod so subtle you're not sure he just didn't blink, and he gestures toward the pot. Inside, beans. Of course it's beans. Beans so overcooked they look like they survived an emotional crisis. Beans so thick you could spread them on a wall as insulation. You take a bite anyway, because you're brave like that. Or foolish. The line is blurry out here. The flavor is smoky, metallic, defeated. It tastes like the pot has been washed with nothing but prayers and sand. The hardtack sits nearby, a piece of bread so tough it could double as frontier self-defense. A mainstream historical fact, soldiers, cowboys, and travelers regularly ate hardtack that had to be soaked in water or stew because biting it raw could chip a tooth. And you, in your optimistic arrogance, try to snap a corner off with your hands. The bread wins immediately. You glance at the water barrel next, hoping for relief, but when you take a cautious sip, you understand instantly why Frontier Diaries contains so many complaints about rust taste. The water carries a memory of metal, of wood, of travel, maybe of existential dread. Some quirky fringe tidbit said some settlers added burnt wood or charcoal chips to their water barrels to purify the taste. You don't know if it worked, but right now you'd drink anything that tastes less like a haunted canteen. You sit on a log and watch the wind blur the horizon, dust drifting lazily like it has nowhere better to be. A cowboy nearby stirs the pot with a spoon that's probably older than you, and he warns you not to wander too far, something about a stray bull with attitude issues. You're not sure if he's joking. You hope he's joking. His face suggests he absolutely is not joking. As you try to swallow another mouthful of beans, you start noticing how food isn't just scarce, it's unpredictable. One day you might find fresh game. The next you're chewing on jerky so tough it feels like you've been handed a strip of salted leather. Historians still argue whether frontier diets were as nutritionally miserable as the stories suggest. But as you gnaw on something that refuses to be chewed, you know where you stand on the debate. A fly buzzes around your cup, and you're almost tempted to apologize to it. Even the fly seems disappointed in your meal. You brush it away and watch as it immediately returns like it's trying to comfort you. The West is harsh, but even frontier insects apparently carry a bit of pity. Your stomach, now more confused than hungry, gives up entirely. You lean back, staring at the shimmering plains and thinking about the smooth convenience of your modern kitchen, your fridge humming softly, your clean running water, the way your stove doesn't need constant negotiations to stay lit. Out here, food is fuel, not flavor. It keeps you alive, but it doesn't necessarily keep you happy. And with every gritty bite, you understand the truth. Surviving the Wild West wasn't a dramatic showdown with danger. It was enduring daily discomfort with no promise of improvement. You stand up, brushing crumbs that feel more like gravel from your hands, and take a slow breath. The heat still hovers, the dust still stings, the water still haunts you, and you've only just eaten breakfast. If this is how the West feeds you, you start wondering what else it's planning to take.
You leave the camp with a stomach full of regret and beans that you're pretty sure is still expanding inside you. The sun hangs overhead like it's waiting for your next mistake. And as you wander into the closest hint of civilization, a small, crooked-looking town, you immediately understand something crucial. Out here, people watch everything. You push open the saloon doors, attempting to look casual, but the entire room turns towards you with the synchronized precision of a suspicious flock of owls. You freeze. Apparently, even breathing too confidently counts as a bold move. A man polishing a glass pauses mid-circle. A woman playing cards raises one eyebrow so high you're shocked it doesn't detach. A couple of cowhands glare like you've just insulted their horses. Welcome to the Wild West, where strangers rank somewhere below stray dogs on the social ladder. You take a slow step forward, reminding yourself to keep your hands visible. This wasn't just Hollywood drama. Frontier folks actually lived by strict, unwritten social codes. A mainstream historical fact? Looking someone in the eyes for too long could be read as a challenge. And right now, you're desperately trying to look everywhere and nowhere at the same time, like a guilty raccoon caught near an open trash can. You approach the bar, and the bartender looks you up and down like he's assessing how many mistakes you've made today. Water? You ask, hoping he has some that doesn't taste like an abandoned bucket. He grunts and hands you a cup. It's slightly less haunted than the last one, so that's progress. The saloon hums around you, low conversation mixing with clinking glass and the shuffle of boots across wooden planks. A man nearby whispers something to his friend, and they both glance at you before laughing quietly. You tell yourself it's fine. Maybe they're laughing at something unrelated. Deep down, of course, you know that's a lie. Out here, everything feels personal. A quirky tidbit you once heard surfaces in your mind. Some frontier towns had unofficial greeting windows where newcomers would stand to show they weren't a threat. Basically, early Wild West social media, except instead of likes, you got the privilege of not being thrown out. You shift your weight awkwardly, thinking you might be standing in exactly such a silent test right now. You step toward an empty table, and your boot squeaks loudly. The entire room goes quiet for a half second that feels like a full hour. You offer a weak smile, as if apologizing with your face, and slide into the chair. Historians still argue whether the frontier was truly as violent and tense as the legends claim. But with every cautious blink, every measured movement, you feel the tension humming in the floorboards. There's an electricity to the room, a quiet expectation that something could go wrong at any moment. Not necessarily gunfights or duels, but misunderstandings, insults, mismatched tones. Social survival is more fragile than physical survival here. A card game in the corner catches your eye. One man slams his fist on the table, accusing another of cheating, and suddenly you understand why everyone walks around like they're storing fireworks inside their ribs. Words here have edges. Expressions here are loaded. Even jokes can ricochet into disaster. Of course, you try your best to blend in. You keep your shoulders relaxed, but not too relaxed. You sip your water without slurping. You make zero eye contact with anyone who looks like they could bench press a horse. But the Wild West has a way of reminding you that you're an outsider. A nearby cowboy mumbles, "City hands." And though it's meant for his friend, it hits you like a pebble flicked at your pride. You try to pretend you didn't hear it, but your ears absolutely did. After a few cautious minutes, you stand to leave. The room watches again, not as intensely, but enough to make your neck stiff. You nod politely, because that feels like the safest gesture. A couple of people nod back. One man simply keeps polishing his glass, which feels like progress by frontier standards. Walking out into the harsh sunlight again, you exhale deeply. You made it through a Wild West saloon without saying the wrong thing, staring too long, or accidentally starting a feud. That counts as survival, barely. But as the dust swirls around you again, you can't help thinking, if even conversation is this dangerous, what's going to happen when you face the actual challenges of the West? You step away from the saloon, feeling strangely proud of surviving a room full of suspicious stares. But the Wild West doesn't allow victories for long. Within minutes, someone calls out to you from behind a weathered wooden fence, a ranch hand waving what looks suspiciously like a challenge disguised as casual conversation. Ever ridden? You hesitate, which is already the wrong answer. In the West, hesitation is basically a confession of weakness. He gestures toward a horse, big, brown, and staring at you like it already knows you're about to embarrass yourself. The horse snorts, as if warming up its laughter. You place a foot in the stirrup, trying to look like you've done this 1,000 times. You haven't. You absolutely haven't. And the horse knows it. The moment you try to swing your leg over, your body tilts in a way that your pride does not approve of. You catch yourself barely, gripping the saddle like it's the edge of a rooftop. The ranch hand raises an eyebrow. "City hands," he mutters again, apparently the official Wild West diagnosis for every modern problem. A mainstream historical fact, frontier folks started riding as young as 5 years old, sometimes even earlier. Meanwhile, you're sitting crooked on a horse, praying you don't slide off like a poorly balanced backpack. The horse shifts its weight, and you make a noise you hope nobody hears, a sort of dignified whimper. "Try nudging him forward," the ranch hand says. You do. The horse moves. You do not, or at least not gracefully. You bounce with each step like a sack of laundry someone forgot to tie shut. The ranch hand covers his mouth to hide a grin. The horse trots. You bounce harder. The horse stops. You keep bouncing for one extra humiliating second. You climb down the moment you get the chance, pretending it was all part of your plan. Your legs wobble like overcooked noodles, and for a moment you're convinced the ground is moving. The ranch hand offers you a rope next, because apparently today is Let's Make the Outsider Suffer Day. Ever used one? He asked, handing you a lasso. The answer is no. Very no. Super no. But pride makes you say, I've seen it done. You swing the rope overhead, trying to imitate the smooth motion you've seen in old westerns. Instead, you create a dangerous vortex that nearly smacks you in the face. You throw the loop anyway, and it lands a heroic 2 feet in front of you, missing the wooden post entirely, but managing to rope the concept of failure quite effectively. The ranch hand nods slowly, the kind of nod that says, bless your heart. A quirky fringe tidbit flashes in your mind. Some cowboys named their ropes for good luck: Old Whistler, Snakebite, Gentle Annie. You consider naming yours Chaos. It seems fitting. Next, he leads you to a stack of supplies tied to a simple wooden sled, meant to be dragged across the property. Help me move this, he says. Easy, you think. It is not. The rope digs into your palms. The sled refuses to budge. When it finally moves, it jerks so suddenly that you stumble forward like gravity personally betrayed you. Historians still argue whether the average cowboy's daily workload was truly as punishing as the legends claim, but your screaming muscles aren't waiting for a scholarly consensus. They tell you the truth immediately. Every tug, every lift, every tiny task feels like an exam you didn't study for, and the teacher is the entire frontier. Sweat drips down your temples. Dust sticks to your face. Your lungs are still recovering from that earlier fried air sensation, and each tool you pick up seems specifically engineered to highlight your weaknesses. You try carrying a saddle. It's heavier than your disappointment. You try lifting a water bucket. It sloshes everywhere except where it needs to go. And when someone asks you to check the fence line, you walk 4 steps before a thorny bush claims your pants like an overeager souvenir collector. The ranch hand gives you a sympathetic pat on the back. You'll toughen up, he says. You won't. Not today. Probably not ever. As you wipe the dust from your eyes for what feels like the 100th time, the horizon stretches endlessly in front of you, shimmering under the heat. You realize that the Wild West wasn't just about grit. It demanded a kind of physical stubbornness you haven't even begun to develop. Your arms ache. Your legs protest. Your pride limps quietly behind you. And worst of all, the day isn't even over yet. By late afternoon, you've survived the heat, the food, the stairs, and the rope-induced humiliation. But the West has been saving its best torment for last: night. The moment the sun dips behind the ridgeline, the air changes. It doesn't cool gently or gradually. It just drops suddenly, like someone opened a trapdoor beneath all the warmth. 1 second you're sweating, the next you're shivering hard enough to hear your teeth auditioning for a percussion section. You wrap your arms around yourself, staring out at the plains where the sky deepens into a bruised purple. The wind, now colder and much more opinionated, brushes across your neck like it's checking whether you're paying attention. Every time it gusts, it carries bits of dust that somehow still find their way into your eyes, even at night, even when you thought you'd suffered enough. A lantern flickers beside you, soft but unsteady. Its glow only reaches a few feet before surrendering to the darkness. You blink out at the nothingness beyond, and for a moment, you swear something is moving out there. Maybe a bush, maybe the wind, maybe the universe reminding you that you're prey tonight. A mainstream historical fact slips into your mind. Settlers often slept in groups or kept a fire burning all night because predators, wolves, coyotes, big cats, roamed freely after sunset. And though your rational brain tries to tell you that most nocturnal animals wanted nothing to do with humans, your imagination has other plans. Every creak, rustle, and distant cry feels like a countdown to some furry creature making you your evening inconvenience. A quirky fringe tidbit comes to mind.
Some pioneers used to hang tin cups or spoons on their tent ropes so the clatter would warn them if anything brushed past in the dark. You don't have cups or spoons. You just have your ears. Ears currently doing overtime, registering every noise with suspicious enthusiasm. The temperature drops further. Your breath forms little clouds, and the chilly air seeps through your clothes like it's auditing your insulation. Your muscles ache from the day's failed attempts at Western competence, and now every shiver sends another complaint up your spine. You shift uncomfortably on the rough bedroll someone tossed your way. The ground beneath you is unforgiving, hard-packed dirt mixed with tiny, malicious pebbles. You keep trying to find a non-painful position, but the earth insists on poking you, reminding you at every angle that comfort is a modern invention. Historians still argue whether the average cowboy's daily workload was truly as punishing as the legends claim. But after 10 minutes lying there, alert and exhausted at the same time, you silently cast your vote. Yes, absolutely yes. There's something uniquely unsettling about knowing the world around you is awake, watching, shifting, even if it's only the wind and the insects. A distant coyote howls. You tell yourself it's at least a half-mile away. Then you hear another, closer. Your body curls up instinctively, a turtle retreating into the soft, fleece-lined shell of denial. The darkness thickens. The stars above scatter across the sky, bright and sharp, far more dazzling than the city lights you're used to. But the beauty doesn't relax you. It just makes you feel even smaller, even more breakable under this enormous, indifferent western sky. You close your eyes, hoping sleep will come quickly. It doesn't. The cold finds gaps in your clothes. Your mind replays every moment of the day, every misstep, every hostile glance, every horse-related disappointment. You breathe slowly, trying to calm your thoughts, but the night refuses to soften. Eventually, though, exhaustion wins. Your body sinks deeper into the uncomfortable ground, muscles loosening, breath slowing down. Your last conscious thought is simple, honest, and slightly dramatic. You really wouldn't survive a day in the Wild West. Not without a miracle, a guide, or a portable heater. The night settles further, becoming less a backdrop and more a blanket that drapes itself gently over your tired thoughts. The wind softens, losing its earlier bite, and begins to move more slowly, as if it too is drifting toward rest. You feel the cool air on your skin, no longer shocking, but steady, almost soothing in its predictability. Your breathing naturally slows to match that rhythm, each inhale a little deeper, each exhale a little longer, as the world around you quiets. In the darkness, even the distant sounds begin to fade, not disappearing entirely, but stretching out, lengthening, becoming softer echoes rather than sharp interruptions. The faint howl becomes a low hum, the rustle of shrubs turns into a gentle whisper, and the beating of your own heart becomes steady, familiar, grounding. The stars overhead remain bright, but even they seem less intense now, as if dimming slightly so they don't disturb your drifting senses. You shift one last time, the hard ground beneath you somehow less bothersome now that your body is relaxing. The tension that sat in your shoulders slowly releases, flowing downward with each breath. The air you draw in is cool, clean, and calm, and with each slow exhale, the remaining worries of the day melt into the wide, quiet night. You let the vastness of the frontier soften into something peaceful, a reminder that even the harshest landscapes have moments of quiet, moments where the world pauses, moments designed to let you rest. Your eyelids grow heavier, thoughts blur at the edges, and the Wild West, once overwhelming, now feels distant and gentle. And as the last bit of tension leaves your body, you drift, slowly, steadily, into the quiet comfort of sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.